Hi, this is Eternal King here, bringing you another LOR video today. So, first of all, talking about Eternal stats, I had someone ask me a question about where do you find relevant stats now that most of the websites have shut down. The commenter was referring to mobalytics. Mobalytics has shut its doors down to recording proper LOR stats quite some time ago. And the commenter was referring to Mastering Runeterra. Mastering Runeterra was run by Majin Bey, the top competitive player in Standard, and has largely given up on the game as of a month ago. So where's the last place you can go for proper Runeterra stats? Well, it is Runeterra AR. Runeterra AR is the last website on the entirety of the internet where you can get valid stats for LOR. Whether that is Standard or whether that is Eternal, you need to go to Runeterra AR and go to their stats section. Now in the last video, I was able to provide a very clean list of stats. Ladder was pretty solidified at that time and straightforward. I talked about decks like Eddie Elise, Ziggs Poppy, Draven Rumble, Karma Set, Ezreal Seraphine, Nightfall, Orange Jax, Akshan Eddie, Vandal Tree Control, Trundle Set, Temple, Thresh Nasus, Victor Aphelios. Like a lot of very high synergy decks were doing very, very well in the game. So high synergy, level up, quick level ups, things of that nature, control decks, all sorts of stuff like that. It was a very balanced and very well set up ladder. Things have shifted a little away from that. I kind of alluded to this previously. So one of the big shifts is Elise Temo. So Elise Temo is a deck that I did a tutorial on a while ago, and it is a burn pile. And it is currently the highest winning deck in the game at 63%, outperforming Draven Rumble and Ziggs Poppy. So this is the list right here. Basically using things like Fading Memories, Broom Crew Rookie, Mystic Shot, Unspeakable Horde, Doom Beast, Get Excited, Phantom Prankster, use Cass Salesman, Astral Fox. I have one of Astral Fox, but the exact way that you build the list doesn't matter too much. It's just mostly non-interactive burn. That's the entire deck. You don't care about anything in your deck. Everything is designed to die. Everything is designed to push damage, and then once you get close enough, you push more damage. So that's the top deck in the game right now. Other shifts, we have some new stuff. So typically it is strike-based decks. So a lot of strike spammy decks are doing exceptionally well right now. One is like Undyr, Morgana, midrange. So again, it's that sort of lower commitment of play style where you are jamming as many strikes as humanly possible. So I'll just show off the cards that do really well. And again, I don't think the exact deck matters much, but it is, you know, Concerted Strike. Concerted Strike is very good right now. Anything that says strike. Let's see if I can get strike and then spells. So you're going to see, you know, Fish Fight is the equipment version. So Fish Fight's a fun card. If you're in Dragons, it's Strafing Strike. You know, if you're in Auction, it is going to be like a Grappling Hook or a Desert's Duel. Single Combat for your more mono demacia shells. And the big one is, let's see if I can grab it here, but it is the Fiora card. Like, it's got a picture for it. Yeah, Gentleman's Duel. Gentleman's Duel is probably the best one. I think it's probably even better than Single Combat. It's so incredibly cost effective with the Formidable package that, you know, it shows up in a lot of decks. So the one thing that we're seeing is that demacia based card piles, things like Undyr, Morgana, are doing exceptionally well in the game right now. And again, I think that's just one example of a deck that is doing well. Someone spoke of doing very, very well with a Mono Shyvana list. So Mono Shyvana, Shyvana doing very, very well right now in a pure dragon shell. So a pure dragon shell was being reported to be a great off-meta deck that you could be running. Obviously, the meta Shyvana card pile with Eddie doing very well, but also someone was saying that they got to Masters with the Mono Shyvana deck without Eddie, and just kind of that mid-range value package. Basically, you play your dragons, and you play your strikes into your dragons, and then you win the game. Morgana, Undyr kind of working very similarly, where you play your big mid-range creatures, or your big mid-range champions, and then you play your strike cards on them, and you play your buffs as well. Obviously, the formidable decks always doing well, always relevant. So a lot of Galio stuff. Basically, low commitment, low synergy. If you try to get anything going, I will single combat it off the face of the earth. That is kind of the big deck that is rising up in popularity right now. The other one is Sejuani. Sejuani is doing very, very well. So Sejuani empowered Sejuani with a Gwen. So Gwen's Sejuani, sorry. Basically, you're swinging with Sejuani for like 10 plus damage thanks to Hollowed, and then you Atrocity the Sejuani for another 10 damage. And like, it is just kind of a dumb deck that just runs that straightforward line, but like, that's what we're seeing, is we're seeing in Eternal a shift away from like decks that try to do things that are complicated or interesting to decks that run the straightest line. So whether it is the mid-range demacia shell that concerted strikes the minute you try to commit to something, or single combat something the minute you commit to something. So it is the mid-range demacia shell. It is the Sejuani Atrocity for 20 OTK. It is, you know, the uninteractive burn package being the best of the aggro decks, right? Because again, nothing here, if any of this stuff gets single combated, you don't really care because none of your cards matter. So we are seeing a rise of like the less committal decks. Before it was all high synergy, high commitment. That was kind of where the meta was. Now we're slightly moving away from that to less commitment, demacia mid-range, burn aggro, and, you know, less, I would say that again, the best version of control is still going to be Meta Jace Lux. Meta Jace Lux is like an institution. It's not going anywhere, but increasingly you're seeing that the decks that run the straightest line possible, whether it is the Galio deck, whether it is some sort of, you know, mid-range demacia shell, whether it is the burn aggro shell, we're seeing that these decks are slightly rising up in statistics compared to what I've provided previously. Orange Axe also being a good mid-range shell that is strike-based. Aksha and Sivir being a good mid-range shell that is strike-based. A lot of mid-range demacia. Right now. Strikes are just good. If you want to talk about like what's changed in terms of the stats, I would just, as a blanket statement, just like single combat is a good card. I would just say, like, if you want to be a standard player in Eternal right now and do the best you can in the format, just play a mid-range demacia shell with, you know, various versions of strike effects. And if you do that right now, when Eternal players try to come in and they try to get things going and they try to get things moving and they try to do cool stuff, you just say, single combat, my card's bigger than yours, your card is now dead. And you'll say, oh, well, I was trying to like level up and flip, and like, no, I don't care, your card's dead. So just like play, you know, mid-range demacia shells, I think, are very much autopiloting right now in the format. Again, I don't think they're inherently better than anything else. It's just that they're proving to be the best way to shut down a lot of things, right? Like the big formidable card is going to strike into Aurelia and kill the Aurelia. It'll, you know, strike into the Azir, it'll strike into Aphelios, it'll strike into Nora, it'll strike into anything. Like any card that you're trying to like do something with, like even Swain Nora depends on Nora at least hitting once. So just like the more strike effects you have, the more you can deny value in the Eternal format. And so that's what we're seeing, is we're seeing a transition from high synergy, high commitment to low synergy, shutting down other people's commitment, basically punishing high committal plays. But again, all of that is on Runeterra AR in the stats section. It is the last website where you can get valid statistics on deck performances, because otherwise I wouldn't know that these shifts are happening. I wouldn't know that mid-range demacia is stonks right now. I wouldn't know that, you know, burn aggro is now the best aggro deck. Like, I wouldn't think that that would be the case, but it is now. Because again, it performs best into strike decks. You know, you don't have to worry about Poppy getting single combated because there's no Poppy here. So this version of aggro is the best. And then obviously Akshan Eddy also being a strike fest is also good. So just strikes in general right now. Strikes are stonks. And playing a deck that does not, that counters decks that perform a lot of mid-range strikes are stonks. Atrocity decks are stonks, right? Just like everything that is less interactive as possible and less synergistic as possible is good right now. This is Eternal King signing out.